Well, if apparently you put points in fantasy booking faction and make it a competition, you guys all become super competitive and become very angry if you do not make the top 10. Understandably, I know you guys are all proud of your factions, but unfortunately, when people send me 40 different factions, I can only pick 10. 30 of you are going to miss out. That is very good maths because I was good at school. But let's find out how you guys did this week on Season 1, Episode 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, available on all platforms and YouTube. He's the Apex Podcaster. He's the wise owl of professional wrestling. He smells better than Dude Love with Sex Panther on. He's the king of fantasy booking. He is your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. He is Omega Luke, and you're listening to the Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.
Before we begin, let's look at the league table as it stands after 2 weeks. After 2 episodes of Season 1, we have at the top there Mike Aaron with 13 points. Grayson Reeves coming in at second place with 11. 5 nerds and go, obviously last week's winner with 10 points. Kyle McGrath in the top 4 there, with my friend Luke Roberts on the same points as Sid Shriram. I'm getting better at his name, I'm sure. 7th place, Mike Baker on 8 points, just behind those 3. Joint 8th and 9th, of course, is Kiefer Cook and Zach Monday, both with 7. And rounding out the top 10 after 2 weeks is Wilfred Watches with 6 points. So this week's stipulation is as follows. I wanted to see an ex-WWE wrestler can still be active, retired, or passed away. That can be anyone who used to wrestle for WWE. A present or former NXT tag team. So as long as they have featured in a tag team in NXT, that was allowed. And someone whose first or last name begins with a vowel. So I think it was a very open faction for the stipulation this week. However, we had a few people who struggled with this, a few people who actually made this top 10 who struggled, and it becomes very apparent that quite a few people came up with the same thing. You're going to see a few tag teams being mentioned once or twice in here. A few, to be honest, quite a few people came up with the exact same faction, and I just had to decline it. But someone who did make the cut this week in 10th place is actually 10th place in the league. He is the father of Brainbuster Radio, which debuted on launch day yesterday, April 1st. So you can check out that because it might be a familiar voice. It is me on Brainbuster Radio with Math. We are fantasy booking ourselves. Go check it out. It was a lot of fun, as well as all of the other Brainbuster episodes this week on launch week. But it is, of course, Wilfred Watches. He comes in at 10th with the 90s blonde, stunning Steve Austin, American Alpha as the tag team, Arn Anderson as the vowel as their first or last name. He's called them the Dangerous Alliance, led by Paul Heyman, naturally. American Alpha are the stars, Steve is the shooter, and Arn is the leader of the pack, all in red and gold. And I quite like that faction. I think if you had the stunning Steve Austin, not Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think it definitely works. So well done, Wilfred. 1 point for you today, buddy. Coming in at 9th place was actually someone who I gave an honourable mention for last week because his stipulation, he didn't quite meet the stipulation, but this week he does. And last week he had Fortune Favours the Bold 1. This time he has Fortune Favours the Bold 2.0. It is my friend Ditz on Wrestling. He started with Stone Cold Steve Austin again. Yet again that guy showing up, but different rendition of Steve Austin here. Only Lorcan and Danny Burch, of course, the tag team of NXT, and Kurt Angle with the vowel. From the ashes, Fortune Favours the Bold, rises like a phoenix, better than ever. This is a bold statement. So Obviously, all 4 of these guys are bold. Very funny. And yeah, I like it. Nice faction. Very good. From giving me abuse this week, this guy somehow lands in at 8th place with 3 points. It is Mags Deej Kirby, of course, ex-WWE guy of Paul Burchill, NXT Tag Team, British Ambition of Neville and Oliver Gray, and the name beginning with the vowel Nick Aldis. He's got the faction name of For Queen and Country. Obviously, all of these guys are English. 4 of the hardest blokes from the British Isles, taking no prisoners. These proper blokes will stop at nothing to smack someone in the gob, have a cup of tea and sing along to God Save the Queen. England. Nice. Coming in at 7th place with 4 points is someone who didn't quite make the cut last week, but he has come back with a bang. And that is what I like to see on Fantasy Booking Faction. If you do not make one week, you come back with a better faction the week after, and then you make the top 10, just like my friend Caden CN, at Caden CN on Twitter. He has gone with EGO, or Ego, obviously, entertainment's greatest options. CM Punk, The Mighty, or TM61 as they were also known, and Austin Theory, who is, I do believe, is the Evolve champion right now. Made his debut for Progress last month. Very good wrestler, very young wrestler too, up and coming. But they are a group of egotists, a star who was mistreated towards the end of his tenure, a team that was really underutilized, of course, no longer here because Nick Miller has gone, and a newcomer who hasn't been given the opportunities he feels he deserves in Austin Theory, obviously. They all believe they are the greatest in the world, but they aren't satisfied until someone else believes it too. That is a great way of doing a faction, I think, because they are 4 very egotistical characters. Obviously, we don't know what they're like in real life, but their characters that they play are very egotistical. I think they would all suit very well. They look the part as a team, and I think that would be a very good faction. So well done, Caden, for picking up 4 points this week. Coming in 1 place above Caden is my friend Luke Roberts. Obviously, you can see I'm in his profile photo there, one of my best friends. He has gone with a faction of Dan 7, American Alpha, and Kurt Angle. All amazing mat at / amateur wrestlers, 7 being the badass. Obviously, he was hard as fuck. No shit given muscle. American Alpha, obviously a great technical tag team in NXT. And Angle, the leader, and Jason Jordan's father, one of the best ever, who is the main guy, an epic run on the mic, being similar to his TNA run, which arguably is just as good as his run in WWE. The first time I really liked Kurt Angle in TNA. Some of the feuds he had with the likes of, obviously, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe was brilliant. TNA Kurt Angle was insane. And he's called him Ground Smack and Pound. I really like that faction. Once again, Roberts is in the top 10, picking up 5 points. In 5th place, picking up 6 points though, is Royally Rumbled, the fantasy booking champions on Omega Luke podcast. They have gone with the faction of Raven, the Ascension, and Asuka. Raven is the grizzled veteran who assembled this mishandled and disaffected group. Asuka is the bloodthirsty warrior. The Ascension are his tireless beasts of the underworld. They swear to misfortune, which is the team name, Nevermore. So, that is a very good faction. I really like the dark style that Raven and the Ascension brings in that. And I really do think that you could make Asuka, if you just change her attire very slightly, you could make her fit in with those 3 guys very well and have her as that bloodthirsty, almost like a samurai warrior. I know it's very on the nose because she's Japanese, but not to be stereotypical, I think that would really work well, and I think that would be an excellent faction. Coming in 4th place, picking up, what is that now, 7 points, is Grayson Reeves. He's already near the top of the table. Grayson Reeves comes in with Kurt Angle, American Alpha, and Mark Henry. 3 former Olympians. 1 was a freaking gold medalist with a broken freaking neck, and a world's strongest man twice. Kurt Angle's world's strongest man.
Yippee-ki-yay!
He says, so let's call this the world's strongest faction. And I think that's a very good faction there. Grayson Reeves is obviously Reach Wrestling's booker, so he does know how to book stuff. You can't argue that's a very good faction. In third place is probably my favourite faction of the lot, but not the best faction. Now, that is slightly different, but you still, nonetheless, pick up 8 points for third place. So that's pretty good. I do believe it's the first time they are on here as well, and that is Springboard Wrestling Blog. This faction of Shad Gaspar, if you do remember Shad, he was very funny. Street Profits, of course, in NXT, and Enzo Amore, very controversial bloke. The team name, The Hood, a heel group. Shad will be the dominant leader of the group. Dawkins and Ford could dominate the tag division, and Enzo would be the talker of the group. And I think that's a very fun faction, playing on the hip-hop style, The Hood, of those four guys. Now, second and first place comes in, and they are very, very similar. However, there is one person different, and I think they both suit, don't get me wrong, but I think the person that is different on the first place is slightly better fit than the person who fits on the second place. But second place is Take the Bump podcast, and instead of just writing me their faction, they have created a graphic, and I love it. You guys all know I'm a big graphics guy, and they've come up with the new ministry. Maybe they could have done with a little bit more of a description as well. That may have swayed me to first place. Not an essay, please. Some people are sending me like pages and pages and pages of stuff, and I just haven't got time to read it. I'm getting sent like 40 different factions. But they obviously, as you can see, have the Ascension and Aleister Black fitting in with 90s style Undertaker, and I really like that. Obviously, Undertaker has just left WWE by the looks of it. Joining StarCast, and good luck to him, really. I really like that faction. I think it really plays well. But what is different from second place to first place? So, first place, congratulations, 10 points goes to Mike Baker at Baker_show. And he's gone with, like I said, The Undertaker, The Ascension, and instead of Aleister Black, he's gone with Evil. And I think Evil, with the whole entrance and the scythe thing, just works a little bit better than Aleister Black. Don't get me wrong, Aleister is a very good fit for that. But Evil, just a little bit better for me. He's called them the Gates of Hell. Perfect gimmicks that could easily mesh and makes absolute sense. I agree. The Ascension could go back to being the badasses they were. Evil is basically Undertaker's Japanese son. Arguably, yes. So it just makes sense visually and aesthetically. Merch would be sick. And you're right, merch would be fucking sick. I really like that. Congratulations. First place to Mike Baker. 10 points for you. So here is the league table of Season 1 after 3 weeks gone. As you can see, 9th, 10th and 11th, really, is taken up by Wilfred, Keith and Zach Monday, all on 7 points. 8th place is Springboard, getting their debut on the Fantasy Booking faction this week with 8 points. 6th and 7th goes to Kyle McGrath and Sid Shriram on 9 points. 5th with 5 Nerds Go with 10 points. Obviously the winners of last week. 4th, Mike Errant, who didn't feature this week, with 13 points, dropped down from first place. Overtaken by 3rd place, Roberts, on 14 points. But first place, there is currently a tie with first and second, Grayson Reeves and Mike Baker, both on 18 points. So congratulations to Mike Baker picking up his 10 points a day and everyone else who made the top 10. Unfortunately, like I said at the start, not everyone can make it, but thank you all for sending in your factions. Come back at me next week with better ones. Make this as hard for me as physically possible because I really do struggle to create a top 10 out of all the great factions that you are giving me. And last but not least, make sure you drop a like on the video, share it with a friend and see if you can beat your friends on this list as well. Get them involved. Make sure you subscribe to Omega Luke Wrestling on YouTube. And I shall see you next week for another episode of Fantasy Booking Faction. Keep your friends close, but keep Omega Luke even closer.